so it's not really training camp yet. So it was kind of an introduction. We're back practicing over here for the next couple days now. But, you know, that's kind of until school gets out, kind of broken down into some different phases. So until school gets out, we're kind of in like a mini camp. We're installing, you know, I had 2 days on, a day off. I'll have 3 days on, a day off, 2 days on, a day off. You know, for the guys, so there's a lot of kind of down break period before we get into the kind of the training camp mentality. After finals get off, but you know, I think our attitude's good. I think our guys are working. They're putting in some effort. I'm seeing some good things. You know, of guys out there flying around, making some plays, some good effort and execute, and then a little bit of inconsistency at times. But it's, you know, so it's expected when you have a young team. You know, I think one of the things that we have to do a great job as coaches is break down and show them, hey, this is what it looks like when we're all doing the right thing. Not nobody making spectacular plays, everybody doing the right thing. Then here's what it looks like when we're not doing the right thing. And you could say, hey, look, one play you're doing the right thing, the next play you're not. Pretty simple stuff. You can do it on one play. You know, not like I'm not talking about like a diving one-handed catch out of bounds. You know, I'm just talking about making the right read, you know, taking the right back pedal, breaking on the ball at the proper angle, getting off the ball in a good pass rush move, be staying in a good position, blocking, firing off the ball. Just doing the little things right. I think guys, as young players, they start to say, okay, hey, look at when we do things right, what it looks like. Now, how do I get that done every single play?
Obviously, you'll have a better read on it once camp ends, but your thoughts on that mandatory day off now, and how do you adjust for that? Like it so far?
I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. We haven't had a mandatory day off yet. We gave them a day. You know, we're trying to follow these other rules. You know, there's the mandatory day off rule, then there's the contact rule, then there's this rule, then there's that rule. They kind of seemed to change some of the rules. It looked like they changed on me too, some from what was agreed upon, but I don't know. We'll get through it all and evaluate it at the end.
What is it about the farm, man? Is it just a change in atmosphere? Or exactly
I think anytime it's a mindset. So I wanted to get out there because we have some new coaches, some new players. Heck, the road's blocked off, so you got to take a different way. The one, you know, on our walkthrough with the coaches, 3 of the coaches got lost on the way out there the other day. So, for the coaching staff, just to see where it is. So I just wanted to touch on it. But when we do get out there, I think there's a sense of team building out there. You know, I mean, you see it at every level. That's why, you know, whether NFL teams go somewhere for training, you know, Dallas Cowboys are out in California. You know, and NFL teams, they're all over the place. They go away for kind of a training camp, all the way down to high school. You know, they'll go somewhere for like a couple-day training camp. And, just a different mindset, different attitude, and some team building. I think just the demeanor, even though it's only, you know, 1.25 miles from here, I think it has a different feel for it, and it has that different feel for the players that, hey, this is a different time of year. You know, and it's great when we get back over here. It is game week because we need to transition at that point as well. So it's good to have that different mindset there.
Some of the veterans know what to expect from them when y'all go to the farm, but what's it like to see some of those newcomers kind of adjust?
I think there's just some like an intimidation factor, like just hey, we're going to the farm, and they're somewhat nervous before we even get there. You know, the older guys know, hey, it's just not a whole lot. It's actually probably cooler sometimes than it is out here. You know, don't tell our players that. But, you know, I think it's just that mindset, and so I think the younger players are kind of like, what's going to happen, and a little nervous, and the older players know what it's about, know why we go there, and you know, and the kind of the effort, toughness part, and the grind that's expected for it.
Have you seen the older guys like Donald and Martinez and ones like that? You mentioned having a young team, but you've got some experienced leaders. Have you seen those guys kind of step to the forefront and be those guys that you?
Yeah, see, I mean, guys are working at it. Plus, I think a lot of our young guys have a good work ethic and a good attitude right now. I think they realize, you know, last year wasn't acceptable. Last year wasn't what the program's all about. And so I think, you know, they realize that, hey, what they did is not going to cut it, whether you're a young guy or an old guy. So I think there's more leadership throughout the entire team.
I know you guys are getting to hit full pads, but what have you seen from Kylan Hill early on?
He's running hard. You know, I mean, it's hard because the guys are, you know, they're still learning. You know, I mean, it's going to be a couple weeks before you really see what the young guys can do. You see, I mean, they look fast and they look big and strong, but, you know, I mean, we got to see what he does and how fast they pick up the offense and how fast the defensive guys, young defensive guys, pick up the defense. You know, because it's one thing to see them, you know, if you're just in a one-on-one drill where there's no thought process, it's very different than an 11-on-11 drill, but we play 11-on-11 on Saturday, so what you got to see from them is how fast they're absorbing it all.
Does that reflect the difference, say, from a Colin Hill to maybe an Austin Williams or a Keaton Thompson who were here in spring?
Well, obviously, those guys have such a huge advantage, you know, because when they go into the installation meeting, this is their second time. You know, they went through installation meetings all spring. They learned the offense. Some of the guys learned the defense. So when they walk into that meeting, you know, it's really the second time they've had to go through the process of going through the meeting, you know, learning it, going out on the field and practicing it. You know, for the new freshmen, this is their, hey, we put in plays this morning, you know, we kind of put in our today's installation, and the first time they've ever done it is on the field. That's different for the guys that got to do it in the spring.
You had mentioned the desperate feeling of knowing it's your final season for Gabe Miles. Have you seen him take that approach in the first few days?
I do. I think he's playing. I see him. He's, you know, the good thing is I seen him make a bunch of plays for us, and so he's playing a little bit more confidence, which I think that'll really help him as he moves forward. Of you know, being a guy that the offense is going to depend on to make some big plays, and then him going out there and making them is going to give him the confidence and continue to grow.
Obviously, you want your guys to be pushing like nobody has a starting job and keep pushing for that. But how different is the scene for Fitzgerald compared to this time last year in camp? What have you seen from him, the way he's approached it?
I think he's got it. Luckily, he has some maturity, and he's played a little bit, so he understands how to push himself, because no other quarterbacks, you know, one guy's gone through spring and the other two have just shown up. So, I mean, there's some talent there, but they're, you know, the competition-wise, they're years behind him. So he's got to kind of push himself and compete against himself every day. But really, at the quarterback position, that's what you better be competing against yourself for your entire career, not just now. You know, for the next, if he wants to be a big-time quarterback for the next 15 years, he's got to compete against himself every day. So he's learning that part of it. You know, and I think that's an important part of maturity and growing.
You mentioned that Keaton was handling things well in the spring, and you were kind of pleased with the way he gathered things and soaked it all in. Now that you're in this mode, what have you seen?
Same way, I think, you know, sometimes you catch yourself and you're like, oh, it's got to be better, it's got to be better. And then you realize, hey, he's, you know, a true freshman, you know, because I think going through spring and what he did, your standards and expectations for him are really high. You know, and so, you know, for where he's at in his career, I think he's way ahead. You know, coming in possibly as the number 2 guy, though, you got to keep pushing him to get more and more. And but you got to remind yourself is, hey, you just showed up on campus 6 months ago, playing from high school football. So I think that's something that all of a sudden you say, boy, he's way ahead if you put it in that perspective.